It's a great honor to have our friend, America's governor, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida. Governor DeSantis, a lot of people, 60% of the nation, or give or take, who are going to vote tomorrow. What do you want to tell them about the importance, the historic nature of this election?
Well, first, just as a fellow Floridian, I think it's great that right now in the state of Florida, we've turned out 850,000 more Republicans than Democrats in the early and mail vote, and we anticipate having a strong advantage on Election Day. So I just think about all the elections we've watched over the years where Florida kind of hung in the balance, always on pins and needles. That is not going to happen this year. So Florida's off the board.
Well, let's stop a minute. Let's be honest. That's because of you. Listen, I'm not kissing up. Hold on now. I remember when you won by the skin of your teeth as governor. And you've created an environment in that state where people want to live, including me and my family. I'm just being honest. With your low tax rates and all the rest of it, competent government, you stay out of our face. And that's all people want. And so I'll salute you, even though you won't salute yourself. Go ahead.
So that's off the board, and so now you're focusing on 7 other states, Florida's not being one of them. What I would say is a couple things. One, we know that we have an administration that has allowed our border to be open, and we've now been overwhelmed with millions of illegals, including people that really mean the country harm from very dangerous countries. Kamala will double down on that. In fact, she's more liberal than Biden on policies like that. And I think it's inevitable, Mark, if this continues, there's going to be a series of terrorist attacks in this country from people that came across the southern border, and that could be a permanent part of American life if we have another 10 million to come in. And even if we don't, I think it's still very, very dangerous. That's first thing. Second thing, judges. We are going to have, the next president is going to appoint potentially a Supreme Court justice, maybe 2, maybe 3. And we don't know what's going to happen, to justice. I mean, all of our justices seem like they're in good health, but you never know. She will appoint justices that are more left-wing than Biden and Obama. Obviously, Donald Trump is going to appoint judges that are our speed in terms of being constitutionalists. So huge difference, not just on the Supreme Court, but all the federal courts, particularly these appeals courts. And Biden has stacked those appeals courts with a lot of really bad judges, and it's been really, really harmful for the country. And then I also think in terms of national security and America's role in the world, Biden's weakness has invited a lot of threats. It's invited a lot of turmoil throughout the world. Kamala would be weaker and less sure-footed than Biden would be. And so I think the threats would metastasize to this country. Who knows what would end up happening in terms of our footprint or what we could get dragged into. Whereas Donald Trump, the good thing about when he was president is our enemies feared him. They didn't know what the hell he would do. And I think the difference between a Harris and a Trump in terms of national security is night and day. So those are just very, very clear differences I think that all conservatives could very much appreciate.
It's time for the Republicans, all of them, to come home, isn't it, Governor?
Yeah, I think you're seeing that. I mean, I always said Biden was going to be replaced. And I was concerned that if the Democrats nominated somebody that at least superficially seemed a little bit more reasonable, that potentially they can peel off some of these Republicans. But I think when they went with Harris, the reality is she's a vapid San Francisco leftist. She's been that her whole life. She was more liberal than Bernie Sanders when she was a U.S. Senator. She was the most liberal Democrat presidential primary candidate in 2020, and that's just who she is. So I think people that are Republican, they look at that. I think that's a really, really tough nut for them to crack, and so I just don't think she's going to be able to attract very many Republican votes.
Do you think the $1.2 billion they've spent on trying to create a fiction here, a concoction, an image of somebody that doesn't exist, you think that'll be effective?
Well, let's just be clear. It has been effective to a point, because if you and I were having this conversation 6 months ago and we thought about Kamala Harris being their nominee, you and I would be chuckling. We would be laughing. We'd be like, well, there's just no way, right? And she was very unpopular. And I predict this. In fact, I told President Trump this. I said they're going to replace Biden, and whoever they replace him with, the media is going to shower that candidate with hundreds of millions of dollars of positive and fawning publicity, which they have done, and then the candidate would raise huge amounts of money, which Harris has done. So you have the combination of legacy media basically whitewashing all her faults, presenting her in a favorable light. Saturday Night Live, of course, doing their part by having her on in a very flattering way. And then her campaign and these liberal super PACs, they plaster the airways. In Florida, we don't even get any local ads. We get all the national ads. And if I'm watching football games or the World Series, the national ads, there's like 4-1 Harris of anybody else. And so they have done that. And I do think it has had an effect. I mean, I think it's benefited her. I think her favorability has gone up. I think her job approval has gone up. Now, I do think that as she gave interviews, as she peeked her head out from kind of behind that veneer, I think people have seen the real Harris, and I do think it's hurt her. But make no mistake, when you have that much firepower from both legacy media constantly pursuing their narrative and basically unlimited money to light up the airwaves, that does make a difference. I don't think it's going to be enough to get her over the finish line, but let's just be clear. If the roles were reversed and she got 100% negative press like Donald Trump and he got 100% positive, that would be worth 5 percentage points.
You're 100% right. Now, in your own state, you have a couple of devious things going on. You got Amendment 3 and Amendment 4. What is Amendment 3?
Well, Mark, you and I are of the same mind as being constitutionalists, and you would agree with this. When you're amending the Constitution, that's not like passing a statute. This is permanent, and if you have any doubt about what's in an amendment or what it would do, the default is to vote no. Just vote no on the amendments if you don't understand them. Now, this Amendment 3 was written by the CEO of a mega marijuana company, and the company has now put in $141 million in terms of advertising and all these other things to try to get it passed. It's kind of portrayed in the media as, recreational marijuana. The reality is it is partially, but it's mostly a scheme for this company to enrich itself. So, for example, it would put in our Constitution a right to possess and smoke marijuana, but you got to buy the marijuana from them. They don't give you the right to grow your own. They also don't limit the ability of people to smoke marijuana in public places. So you're talking about like football stadiums, restaurants, parks.
And the stuff stinks.
Nobody wants Florida to turn into California.
No.
We don't want Florida to turn into Denver. But get this, Mark. This is really, I think, underhanded. And you don't see it on the ballot. You got to read the text of the amendment on the Secretary of State's website, which they hide from you. They're giving themselves total immunity from civil liability. Now, can you imagine that? You can smoke and possess weed, but you got to buy it from them. But if their weed gets you sick, you can't sue them, and that's in our Constitution. So there's no way, and this company is traded on the Canadian Stock Exchange, so they have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders. They could not spend $141 million just because they think it'll make the world a better place. They're doing that because they know they're trying to put in our Constitution a guaranteed revenue stream for their company. So it's a totally inappropriate use of a Constitution. It's a horribly written amendment. Obviously, the debate on marijuana has been going on. I think Colorado, California, New York are cautionary tales. I don't think it's worked in terms of what they've done. But even if you like marijuana, this is not the way to do it. This is a corporate cartel trying to enrich itself at your expense.
And you know what? If they set a precedent, there'll be a lot of corporate cartels trying to amend the Constitution in Florida with $100 million, $150 million in spending as propaganda. And so what you're saying, what I hear as a citizen of Florida is, why would you amend the Constitution for a company that wants to make a fortune off of marijuana, does not want to be held accountable legally for anything, does not want any competition of any kind, and thinks that people should be free to walk around in the restaurants and everything else smoking marijuana? That's not Florida. You're 100% right. That's not even all of California. Maybe it's San Francisco. Now, Governor, you have another one that I want the people to understand in Florida, and that is Amendment 4. And this is an amendment that is illustrative of where the Democrat Party is on this stuff, which is radical and extreme. Why don't you explain it?
So this is Soros, all the left-wing groups funding $120 million to do an amendment to Florida's Constitution that would basically authorize abortion up until the moment of birth, eliminate parental consent for minors, allow non-physicians to greenlight abortions up till the moment of birth, and lead to taxpayer funding of abortions. And so this is what the left wants to do. Between the marijuana and this, they want us to become California through the back door. Interesting on this. So they've done $120 million, which is an incredible amount. I mean, the marijuana is the most ever, but this is probably second most. And this money is coming from all these left-wing C4 groups, including the 1630 Fund. Now, 1630 Fund is funded by a foreign billionaire. Hundreds of millions of dollars have gone into the 1630 Fund. So you literally have them spending foreign money in Florida to try to amend Florida's Constitution. So this is very radical extreme. Interesting, if you're in Florida and you see their ads, they talk about situations, rape and incest, life, health of the mother, ectopic pregnancies, women who have miscarriages. And the thing is, Florida law does not stop any of that. It is a total lie about what our law does, and that's what I found. They don't want to argue why they think, elective abortion at 6 months is something that's acceptable, because I think most people know, the baby can feel pain. It is a fully formed baby at that point, and it's just a lot of people don't want to do that, including me. But they're lying about what Florida law does, and we have under our heartbeat bill, we have exceptions for rape, incest, life, and health of the mother, victims of human trafficking, and of course, things like miscarriages and ectopic pregnancies. Those are not in any way, regulated. In fact, a doctor, not only are they allowed to treat, they're required to treat. They would be, they'd lose their medical license if they didn't do it. So I've never seen a campaign where they lie so much. But here's the thing: the voters have caught on to this. They know that's not the law in Florida. They know they're being lied to, and so both of these amendments, I'm happy to report, have lost a lot of support in the last couple weeks. I think if folks just go out and vote no on both of them tomorrow, I do think they're going to go down. I think they're going to go down hard.
I must say, since I've been voting Governor DeSantis, probably 90% of the time I vote no on whatever's on the damn ballot, to be perfectly honest with you. It's just
not
the
a bad
way I
to do
am.
it.
Yeah. All right, Governor. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for fighting for liberty and the truth. And God bless you, my friend.
All right. God bless, Mark. Take care.
Take care of yourself. He's great. Absolutely great.